Welcome back to another episode of Two Average Husbands. I'm your host, Jake.
And I'm your host, Kyle. Welcome back, everybody. Jake, you're starting this week. You have the fun fact this week, all of those things. But first, tell us what you're drinking this week.
Okay, so I need you to pick what I'm going to drink because I couldn't. So I have 4 shelves on my beer fridge. Pick a shelf.
Shelf number... Drum roll. I can't drum roll. 3.
Are we going from the top or the bottom?
I'm going from the top. Third one down.
Third one down. Okay. 1, 2, or 3?
2.
All right. Beer number 1 for this week is Pipeworks Brewing Round of Margs, which is a sour ale that's supposed to taste like a margarita.
Sour ale that's supposed to taste like margarita. That might be something that I'd be interested in.
I'll let you know if it's good.
Because I used to... It's not that I liked, but I definitely could tolerate like the limeritas. Like those I thought were pretty okay.
So they're palatable.
If it is a beverage that tastes like a margarita, I could probably deal with it.
Here we go. What are you drinking?
You know what? Because you're going to go with a sour, I'll do it. I wanted to do this one second, but I won't. I'm going to start off with Fluffy Shenanigans, which is a strawberry marshmallow kettle sour.
That sounds delicious.
So if you know anything about me, I don't fucking like sours. But I appreciate the fact that people can do a really good job of incorporating flavors into sours. I just don't really like the idea of having a sour beer. So I'm trying to get myself around that. We'll see how this one goes. This is from Tembler Brewing. It's actually kind of a cool can. It's got a bunch of strawberries that are dressed up in different ways.
I like it.
Yeah.
Bunch of strawberry emojis. All right, so the fun fact of the week. Did you know that nutmeg is a hallucinogen?
Yes, but I don't remember like how you have to consume it in order for it to be. Do you have to smoke it?
No, just it contains myristicin, a natural compound that has mind-altering effects if ingested in large dosages. I don't know how large of a dosage. How much nutmeg do you need to be hallucinogenic? I spelled that right the first time.
You lying, says David.
Just 2 tablespoons of ground nutmeg. 1
Just
to 3
straight
whole
up raw?
Yep.
That'd
2
be like the
tablespoons.
cinnamon challenge. You'd fucking cough that all
yeah.
back out. There's no way you'd actually be able to consume 2 tablespoons. You said table, not tea, right?
Yeah, 2 tablespoons
That's
of
a
ground
lot.
nutmeg, 1 to 3 whole nutmegs, or 5 grams of powdered nutmeg may cause clinical signs of hallucinations, nausea, and severe emesis.
What's a nutmeg?
I had no clue.
Interesting.
Yeah, I physically could not stomach that much nutmeg if I tried.
Huh. I don't think I've ever seen a nutmeg.
Yeah, me neither.
This is a new world for me.
I was today years old when I learned this, and by that I mean I literally Googled it right before the podcast, as everybody knows.
Hey, nothing
So-
wrong with that. Ooh, cumin is really fucking weird looking too.
Cumin looks
Anyway.
like something.
It's like almost like a seed.
Carly says, "Do it right now.
Do it right now.
Do it, Jake, right now." I'm not going
If
to
you
do
can
that.
stomach 2 tablespoons of nutmeg, by all means, do it.
I don't
man.
even think I have nutmeg, if I'm being honest with you. And that's not a cop-out. That's legitimately, I do not think I have it.
I probably do, and I am absolutely not going to eat 2 tablespoons of nutmeg. I can tell you that much.
David says we lying, and he says that it sounds horrible. David, good to see you in the chat, man. It's been a while.
Jake doesn't pay
catch up
attention
soon.
when I talk, so when I said earlier that David said, "You lying," and put it on the screen, he just didn't listen to me. Zoned me right out.
This definitely doesn't taste like a margarita that much, but it definitely tastes like... I get the idea of where it's going with. Have you ever had a margarita that has like the beer in it, and it's very light on the tequila, but very beer heavy, but you get like
Coronita?
the citrusiness? Yeah, kind of. But
Yep.
like, imagine that, but poured with a little tequila. That's what this is. It's pretty good. Good start.
I like tequila.
I do like tequila. I fucking love tequila. We had Palomas the other day, and it was a great time.
This isn't
Anyways,
bad. I'll talk more later, but go ahead.
I like it. I like that we're off to a not bad start with you. So Kyle, as always with this podcast, we bring up
As
random topics.
always.
Sometimes we don't know what those topics are going to be until we
No.
get to this podcast.
That is the whole premise.
And by that, I mean sometimes even
Oh,
we
you know your own
don't
topics.
know
Yeah, that is
what
correct.
we're going to talk
Yes.
about until we
Yes,
get to
yes,
the
yes.
podcast. So Kyle, I want to ask you, one thing to start off with, and then we'll see if that branches off into anything from there.
Okay.
What is your opinion on sports leagues in general and having a salary cap versus a salary floor? The reason I bring this up is, right, we have the NFL that's currently still active. MLB is not active right now. NBA, NHL, that other one, that one's active right now too. All of these leagues have this implemented in it in some way, shape, or form. And it's pretty industry specific. Like a lot of roles, you could have, you could be an organization, and there's nothing that says you have to pay your organization a minimum amount of money, and there's also a maximum amount that you can pay them too. Like there's a minimum wage, we know that, but there's no like you can't spend over this much to bring people into your organization. So do you think it makes sense in sports? And if you do you prefer that leagues have a salary cap or a salary floor?
That's interesting, I guess. I'm uneducated on this topic. I will start off by saying that. But
I can educate you if you have any questions.
I think it makes sense that there should be a salary cap from a competitive stance, because teams like, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, it is one of the highest grossing sports franchises in existence, definitely in football. I could be wrong about that, but I'm like pretty sure about that. It grosses some of the most money. And so if you didn't have a salary cap, they could outpay every player and outcompete the entire NFL all the time, right? So like from a competitive advantage standpoint, it makes sense to have a salary cap. I've never thought about a salary floor before.
So I can tell you the sport that the salary floor argument comes up in the most, and it's Major League Baseball. And there's always been teams that spend less money than other teams. That's a known fact, right?
Sure.
It happens in every league. The Bears in the NFL right now have $120 million in cap space next year. Like we're not spending as much money as a lot of other teams.
Sure.
But in the MLB, there's really no advantage to it, right? Because the MLB draft is such a crapshoot compared to every league's draft is a crapshoot, but the MLB draft specifically is a crapshoot. But you have teams where there are two teams in baseball currently whose entire 26-man payroll is less than some individual players are getting paid. And so the argument is often brought up, why is there not a salary floor in baseball to make it more competitive? Because you have teams like this. The Oakland Athletics, they made a whole movie about how little money they like to spend. And there's other teams that are like that.
When was the last time they won a World Series?
The Athletics?
Yeah.
2003?
Because I mean, that's kind of like my counterpoint to this is like, if an organization doesn't want to spend the money and they don't want to win, then fuck them. Like, I'm not going to be don't be a fan.
And that's where I make up a little. So the last time they won a World Series was 1989.
It's a long time ago.
It's been a long time.
Coming from a Dallas fan.
They've been competitive. They've had good teams, as are the Tampa Bay Rays. They're a team that's frequently one of the lower spenders. The Kansas City Royals, Pittsburgh Pirates. There's a lot of teams there. But the argument that I have against the salary cap, the team with the highest payroll in baseball has not won a World Series in quite some time. It's typically one of the teams that spends more money, but
There's
it's
no
never
salary cap.
There is and isn't. There is a cap that you can spend, but it's not like a hard cap. It's if you go over it, you pay a tax penalty. So they call it the luxury tax. So there's different tiers that you can go over, and you sacrifice more things, more and more you go over. And it's basically just a percentage of your payroll you have to pay back to the league or pay back to other teams. I don't quite know who it goes to, but so the argument often gets brought up in baseball that there should be at least a salary floor, right? These teams are making, no team in baseball is valued at less than $1 billion. These teams are very liquid assets that make a lot of money constantly, really never struggle to make money. And if they are, they're doing something wrong. And it's often because the product on the field is bad. So baseball is where it gets brought up the most. Other leagues have it, but it's such an infrequent thing that teams would ever approach it. And baseball doesn't have a salary floor. So I think the argument I have is that more leagues should have a salary floor as opposed to a salary cap.
I guess that my counter question to you then is what is the gross income of the different baseball teams? Because is it like a large spread between the lowest earning and the highest earning?
Let me pull that up.
Because I just don't know the answer to that. Because if every team is averaging within $50 million of each other, call it, like annually, something like that, right? Then they don't have the sheer funds to pay their way into the best team in the league, right? Like even if they wanted to, right? They couldn't.
So the annual revenue of the lowest earning team in baseball last year in 2021 was $208 million.
Okay, that's significant then.
And
Okay, never mind. Go ahead. Say.
And that organization is valued at 1.18 billion.
Okay, and then what was the highest earning?
565 million.
Okay, so like $300 million difference between top and bottom, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 350, call it.
Okay, call it 350. So, also, hello, Dave. Thank you for joining the podcast. I don't know. I don't know that I have a good answer for this, because I think that there is a significant amount of money in baseball that they could buy their way to the top. But like you said, it hasn't really been happening. So like the statistics would show that even though they can, they don't win that way. So I guess I agree with what you're saying about like trying to force people to be competitive by getting them to spend more money. But I feel like, I don't know, there's still this like itchy scratchy thing in the back of my brain saying like if the NFL could spend infinite dollars, like there would be a team that like just wouldn't lose.
Yes, I see that to an extent, but also I think the NFL is a unique situation where I think their salary cap should be a little bit more flexible in terms of what they can pay players per year, just to boost the value of some of these positions that get a little undervalued, in my opinion. But in baseball, I don't think there's a good argument for it, right? You play a 162-game season, you play 81 games at home, plus if you make the playoffs, you get more money for making the playoffs. So there's an incentive to have a good team. If you have a good team, more people want to come watch your team play. You're going to get more money in revenue from, what happens in your stadium. And then the other argument that often comes up in baseball is small market versus big market. So a lot of teams will claim that they're a small market team. The team that that has the lowest team value in baseball supposedly is in Miami. Like that's not a small market. After that is Oakland. You could say that's a smaller market comparatively, but it's still one of the largest cities in the country. And then you have Toronto, you have Baltimore, you have Tampa Bay, you have Pittsburgh. Like these are
big
all
places,
big places who have no problems coming out to support the other teams that are in their area because they're typically pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean the popularity of baseball has been dying over the last decade? I don't know, several years, right? Like it's declining. So the fact that they're blaming it on the city is a little bit absurd to me. It's just the popularity of the sport has declined, and you have to find a way to invigorate fans. But that's not, I guess, related to your question. So I could see either argument, but I think I understand both, but I don't know that I would force a floor. Because like that goes back to my argument of like, if they want to be willing as an organization to make less money, have less fans because they're not willing to spend more money to get the right players to make them competitive, then like self-sacrifice. Like, dude, like Darwinism, like let the strong survive. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not on board. I'm not necessarily on board with the floor yet, but I understand a cap. But I do understand your counterpoint too.
I think the floor just makes leagues in general more competitive. If everybody's at least spending, you don't have to make it a crazy floor, but like, I don't think $75 million for baseball teams is a lot of money. Like realistically, it's not. Yeah. And that would be a $35 million increase from what the lowest salaried team currently is at.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. I can see what you're saying. I think putting it in the context of baseball just makes it hard for me because I don't know shit about how much baseball spends. Right. So, yeah, if it's like people are saying in the chat, like Uncle Kyle has said and a couple other people, like if it's a reasonable floor and it's like, come on, man, like this is the bare minimum you need to like be competitive in the league, like sure, go for it, man. Like I could buy into that. Just I don't want to like, say their revenue is $200 million a year and you're like, you need to spend $195 million a year. It's just so unrealistic. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying anything like that. And there's definitely some merit to having some financial flexibility, like fluid cash, liquid cash that you can, move around as needed. But I think you need to spend enough to make your team competitive. I think even if you made the argument of using like the current league average, which is call it 140 million, like I think that's a reasonable number for these teams to spend. And if you're not willing to spend that, the league can find a new owner who is, because there's owners out there who will spend that money. The guy who just bought the Mets is spending money like it's his damn job. Like
Yeah.
there's people out there who will make these teams competitive.
But
There's
they don't
just
have the
owners.
capability to force an owner out, do they? I don't know. I don't know. Do they?
Not really.
Because so then, I mean, what can they do?
Impose penalties.
Yeah.
I mean, they already
If they're
do that for-
financial penalties and they're like, "Fuck you, I'm not sending you the check." Like, I don't know, dude.
then they could probably kick them out. It would
Yeah.
it would have to be something that's ratified into the rules of baseball
Yeah.
and the collective bargaining agreement and everything that goes with it. But I was just curious because I've talked about it quite a bit on Twitter how I think the league should have at least a salary floor, but the salary cap argument comes into play a lot more, just because people want to see their teams spend more money, and I think we should. I think teams should spend more money. You guys aren't spending enough.
Yeah.
Give me
Okay.
more.
Were there follow-on questions to this? I think you alluded to that at first.
I was just gonna try and play devil's advocate on
Ah.
on the specific leagues and
Okay.
if we could raise the cap, would we?
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is like when it comes to a cap, the NFL teams have done a really good job of like lawyering their way through the cap anyway, and they
Yeah.
just manipulate it through salary bonuses and things like. So some of these teams are spending way more money than they're letting on via the salary cap. So I think it's difficult to enforce that type of thing when there's so many loopholes. It's like the tax system, dude. Like people are going to hire if you're a multi-billion-dollar organization. You're going to find the right legal people to navigate your way through things like salary cap to keep your team popular. Like, it is a very difficult thing to enforce, I think, without people finding their way around it. And the floor might actually be harder to fight your way around because it's like you can't
gotta
like
spend the money.
say that you're putting more money into an organization, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
That is one way that I do prefer the MLB's salary cap towards other leagues is I shouldn't say other leagues, but especially like the NFL, because the NFL, like you mentioned, you can manipulate the cap so much. There's a saying for a lot of us that the cap doesn't exist because it really doesn't. Nobody ever goes through a season and goes over the cap. Like you can.
Is that like the? Do you guys use the thing from Mean Girls where she's like the limit does not exist? Do you like
Yeah.
meme that out? If you
Pretty
don't, you
much.
should. It
Yeah.
seems like a fitting
Yeah,
meme.
like there's just you can always. That's why guys like Taysom Hill sign a 4-year, $140 million contract. Like it's all void years and dead money that's never going to get paid out. It's just to
Yeah.
make the number look pretty. But in baseball, they just take the average annual value of your contract, which helps that MLB contracts are just fully guaranteed. So whatever, if I pay you $30 million a year, that's what your salary cap hit is. I don't have to worry about your dead cap. I don't have to worry about how much money is left in your contract. If I trade you, I don't have to carry
Yeah.
dead cap. If you retire, the money's just gone.
To be honest with you, man, I've never even tried to understand the cap system because I find it to be too complex for me to give a shit. Like
it's a shit show. But
I
it's
just don't
actually, it's
care.
really not that hard to figure out once you get the basic concepts of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. Regardless, I just want to say that Major League Baseball should implement a salary floor. I think every league should reasonably raise the cap of their salaries every single year at minimum. I can't wait for the NFL's $30 million cap jump from 2023 to 2024 because the Bears have money to spend and I want them to spend it. End of thread.
okay,
Scene.
all right, okay.
Dave at the MLB in the chat.
At MLB, fuck you. I don't have much to say. I'm sorry, MLB. To be honest, like my fandom of the MLB has completely disintegrated over the last 10 years. I used to watch Cardinals baseball like a lot. I'd watched the games on TV. I went to a lot of games when I was still living in the Midwest, and now I can't remember the last time I watched a game. Probably the last time Carly took me to one on like my 22nd birthday or something like that. So
Yeah. You've went to a college summer league game more recently than you've gone to an MLB game.
yeah, 100%. But those are fun. I have a good time
Yeah,
at those.
those are
I
good
do
time.
like the sport. You know what I mean? I don't follow it as much.
We're gonna get you out to the Chicagoland area, get you to Wrigley.
I'm going to go to Wrigley. It's on my bucket list. So
If you go to Wrigley without me, I'm gonna be thoroughly upset.
I don't see why I would do that.
Okay. I'm just
There's
making
like no situation where I think that would occur.
sure. Okay. Just
Unless
making
I
sure.
hit you up and I'm like, I have to come to Wrigley on this date, and you told me you couldn't go, I'd probably go without you.
I would find a way to go.
Yeah, I'll make it out there. I'll find a time that makes sense.
Perfect. All right. What do you got for us?
Do you want to rate beers? Where are you at? Do you need time?
I'm about halfway. I can rate, but I'm not gonna open my second one yet.
I'm halfway. We can rate. Let's do that
All
quick.
right.
ahead.
This is just a very good, if you like lemon or not lemon, if you like lime in your beer, you will like this beer. I'm gonna give it a 3, a flat 3, just nice middle road. I would drink it again. This would be really good on like a warm day, like nice outside hanging out with the boys beer. That's what we got right here.
All right. I don't know. I hate to admit it, but I think I'm going to give this a 3.25.
Hell yeah.
This is good. It's a subtle sour, right? So if you're not really into the sours, Dave, we did see that you DM'd us a beer. I'll have to find out if I can find it in my area or vice versa with Jake, and one of us will find it and we'll try it on the podcast for sure. I saw that this morning or yesterday.
Pretty positive I can get that. I think I've seen that before. I'll make sure. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
If we can get it, we'll drink it on an episode for you.
Carly, would you like it? Come out here and try it right now. There's still some in here. I don't know. I don't know how to answer your question. Sours, though, have never really been my thing, but this one's pretty subtle and it has quite a bit of like fruity flavor to it. And so I think it's pretty decent.
That's what
Maybe I'm coming around to sours. I don't fucking know. But it's okay.
Most of the sours that I drink are like not sour. They're very like fruity, kind of a smoothie style. So
I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, it's a 3.25. I'm gonna stop there. It's okay. Carly's gonna try it
live on the pod.
Live.
One sip.
She's gonna like
everybody
gag.
needs the rating.
What's your rating on a 5 scale? We need to know.
People are waiting.
She gave a 2.5.
Dang.
It's less than I gave. I'm sorry. Not as big of a fan, but also she's not a huge beer drinker, so
it happens.
There's a delay between. So she has her noise canceling headphones in and she's listening to us talk.
Yeah.
And there's like a 15-20 second delay from when I speak to her, so she's like halfway out the door and has to turn around and be like, "Oh, my rating." Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's not bad. I'm gonna continue to throw some sours in every once in a while. It's not my go-to, but for the sake of the podcast and because there's just so many fucking flavors they're coming out with. It's the hot thing right now, dude. So the flavor profile of sours is absurd. Like, they're getting really creative.
It went from like make the haziest, dankest IPA that we can make to, hey, let's throw any candy or any dessert into a stout. Yeah. And now it's like, hey, let's make a smoothie but a beer.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of weird shit with sours right now. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I can appreciate the flavor profiles they're creating because I do think they do a better job of incorporating flavor into sours than they have with stouts in the past, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
The flavor really pops out in a lot of these for whatever reason, some science. So hot right now, says Dave. That's so exactly hot. Right. They are so hot. Okay, so I have to give a topic. I have like my like narrowed down list. I'm just trying to figure out what I actually want to talk about today.
Likely story.
All right, so I'm going to do this. I finally made the commitment yesterday, which is why I had to figure out exactly when I had read the tweet from Dave, because I have been weaning myself off of social media for a while. I wanted to completely cut myself off, and it's taken me some time to try to get there, right? And yesterday, so basically what I did is all of my personal social media I got rid of quite a while ago, a few months now, and then I had been crutching it off of the Two Average Husbands account. And in order to facilitate not doing that anymore, I went on my phone yesterday and I deleted every social media app. So if I want to habitually go and click on those things and look through it, I can't. So I am not on social media. I haven't looked at social media in at least 24 hours. It is not a thing for me anymore. And I'm trying to cut myself off. So I want to talk about, I can give you guys my rationale on why I'm doing that, because really that's kind of where I'm leading this conversation is what are the advantages, disadvantages of social media and what you can gain and lose from it. And then on top of that, I want to know what your biggest social media regret is. So I'll give you some time to think about that while I kind of give my rationale on this.
When you say regret,
in general, you could go all the way back to MySpace days or pre-MySpace days. I don't care. What is the thing that you regret in your time of being on social media?
Can it be something I didn't do on social media?
Yeah, sure. 100%. Okay, doesn't matter to me.
This.
However you want to take it, it doesn't matter. Okay, so for me, I think social media is probably like a net additive to me from an entertainment standpoint. Like I have had a lot of fun laughing, whatever, finding stupid videos, like all this kind of shit from social media. But at the same time, and I'm not like woke, quote unquote, about this. Like, it's not because I think that like it's affecting my mental health.
Right.
Even though I'm not trying to say that is something, I'm not trying to disrespect that take by saying that. Like, I probably shouldn't have attached those two things in the same sentence, because I'm not trying to disrespect people that have a hard time with their mental health because of social media, because that is a real thing.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, like, I didn't do this because it was like a social movement. I did it because I don't get value out of it personally. So like me posting things, I don't post. It's all been passive to me forever. So all I do is use social media as a time filler. It's a gap fill for me. It's habitual, where I'll just sit and spend like 30 minutes on my phone scrolling through shit that I don't care about, right?
Right.
And then I noticed it even more when I got off of my personal social media and I moved over to the Two Average Husbands accounts. Like, no offense to anybody that we follow on those accounts, but like, I don't know those people.
Right.
And so I'm like scrolling through a feed of people I don't know and things that I just truly don't give a shit about. And so as I'm doing that, I'm like, why am I doing this? But I kept doing it for like a fucking month. Like, I would habitually like open Twitter and scroll Twitter. And some of it is football, which I do actually get value from that. I like to read about football and football things and football opinions and blah, 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 blah. But most of it was just like stupid, just nonsense. And like some of it's very political and blah, 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 blah. And like, I think for me, it was like a net detractor from like,
Yeah.
I gained less than had I just stopped doing it and experienced, whether it's like keeping me focused on homework or having time to like sit down and watch TV with my wife without being on my phone the whole time or things like that. And so, to make a long story short, I think I have a net positive gain by not being on social media. Not to shit on anybody that uses it or like has a career out of it. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. No,
I get it. I think social media can be good, but
I think I think more people would have a net positive by getting rid of it. Like, and that comes from somebody who definitely is arguably addicted to it. Like, I'm always on it.
I think most people right now are, and they just don't admit it.
I exactly. I think if most of us look at our phones and go to the apps and go to our usage, I guarantee that Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Visco, Be Real, whatever it is, I guarantee that's one of your top used apps. And if it's not, it's number 2. And if it's not number 2, there's 3 of them in your top 5. Like, it's just, it's the way it goes. And I think just a lot of people would gain. I would definitely gain a lot by not using it. That said, I am in the content creation space for fantasy football. I find a lot of usage for the fantasy football world and just making money off of whether that's gambling, daily fantasy leagues. I get a lot from it and I've learned a lot from it, but there's also a lot of negatives that come with it, right? Like, if I post something, my first instinct is somebody's going to hate this and I'm going to have to get into an argument about it. My second instinct is I can't give the argument up. Once it starts, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to go. I'm going to keep going until you shut up. I'm not going to shut up. Yeah. And so there are definitely negatives to it. There's definitely positives to it. I think more people, though, would definitely have a net positive by getting rid of it, just because it does affect your mental health. Like, I have been open, especially recently, about, my mental health not being the greatest at times. And, it's been much better ever since I started, actually medicating it as opposed to just ignoring the issue. But if I ignored social media, like, I think a lot of my issues specifically would go away more so if I didn't have social media. And I think that it definitely, for all the good that I've gotten out of it, there's an equal negative. And I think that's just kind of true in life. Like, for every net positive, for every positive, there's a negative, regardless of what it is. There's a downside to everything you do. There's an upside to everything you do. So for better or for worse, I think most people would be better off getting rid of it. I don't think I could ever do it. I think at this point I'm committed to it. And
like I said, I understand it when it's somebody that, like, it's a part of your career. Like, some people have that and like you can't get away from that. And I totally get it. I'm not like trying to criticize the people that have it as like a necessary part of their, daily routine or whatever. But when I look at it and I go, if I post this post, what am I going to get out of it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the answer is usually nothing.
Yeah.
Like, do you need some sort of self-validation? Like, that's what I kind of think about. What's up, Josh? Welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Josh?
Do I get validation from it? No, not really, right? Like, or if I do, it's like artificial, right?
Right.
I get more personally from doing this podcast, right? Like, interacting with people and like having these conversations and like face to face with you having the conversation, but also like people in the chat like chiming in and like getting different perspectives. I get more from it this way than I think if I were to like post something and fight with people in the comments. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
and I can do this once a week for 1 hour, and that's like my total
that's
investment, right? Like I'm not spending hours on my phone every day. So, like I said,
even
no,
if we
no critique to anybody else.
even if we did more, like even if we do start streaming video games like we've talked about doing a million times, like that's still just you and I having fun, and there's other people that are having fun with us. It's not like you're not putting a piece of content into the world for people to shit on, for people to, tear apart, break down. Like, sure, that's going to happen if you play video games, and it's going to happen, in every way, shape, and form. No matter what you do, somebody's going to hate it. But somebody's also going to love it. So, like I said, there's positives and drawbacks to every part of it.
The big thing that I will say too, from like an advantageous aspect of social media, like not to talk about all the negatives, but like there's a wealth of information out there. So like I could open Twitter like a fantasy football person, right, and like get a shitload of information like relatively quickly, or like educated opinions of like things that I don't have the time to research that stuff. But the way that I kind of justified that at the end of the day for me is like, if I really want that information, I can do one of two things. I can listen to a podcast that I already routinely listen to. Like I really like to listen to some fantasy football podcasts during the season, or I could I can fucking Google it, right? Like I don't need to spend
you could
an
text
hour
me,
looking through. Like there's so many other ways I can do it than scrolling hours of social media to get that information that like I just don't need it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I just don't need it. I don't need to like, this is going to roll into the regret conversation too, but like you never know. Like you might say something now that like, and your opinion changes, and we're at a point now in the world where like you're creating a written history of like things that you say, and like if you say something that's just like so fucking cringy now, like 10 years like later, somebody's gonna pull that back up and be like, "Oh, you cringy fucker," and like I just don't need that. You know what I mean? Like I don't need this paper trail of like cringy things that I've said over time, other than the fact that I'm doing a podcast where I probably am gonna do the same thing. But I don't know. There's like there's aspects of it to look at, but
Definitely.
I agree with Uncle Kyle too. It can definitely provide motivation for folks that like get that from other people that are like in the fitness space. And it's not just that space either. It's like, I'm sure there's groups out there on like Facebook and stuff for like alcoholics, like I'm sure there's all sorts of different like support that you can get, and like 100% all for it if you can find those things. For me, none of that exists in the social media space right now. I don't gain those types of things from it. So
Right. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that, and there's nothing wrong with saying that it's not for you.
Uncle Kyle, we don't need to go down that fucking rabbit hole, man.
Did you guys hear? Hey, did you hear what happened? So
God.
You know how there was they've turned the Cowboys Stadium into like a tornado shelter, right?
I don't want to hear the joke that you're about to make.
Yeah, there's not a lot of touchdowns that happen there. So
fucking idiot.
Anyways, biggest regret though from social media, I regret not like trying to create content at a younger age.
Okay.
I've always been super interested in creating content. I've always wanted to. Yeah. And back when Vine was a thing, I wanted to do it. Back like early days of YouTube, when there were people who were playing video games and they were just, run it. They would record themselves playing Call of Duty and they do a little quick commentary over it. And I see, like if I could have lived the content creator life, I would love that. Like if that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years, and even if I've made marginal gains from it, like I just wish I was doing it more. And I think I was, I like to think that I'm funny. I like to think I would have, been able to build an audience, and I still think I could. But it's a lot harder now when when you're an adult and you have other responsibilities. It's a lot harder to commit the time to creating content at that level. So that's my social media regret.
I've never been a person that like wanted the attention. So like I definitely like, this is outside of my comfort zone. Like being on this podcast is outside of my, like I don't even need this level of attention personally. So, and this is 6 people watching us right now. You know what I mean? Like that's almost too much for me. Right. So, I think mine is using it for or as a vent space. And what I mean specifically by that is like, and I can probably narrow this down to a specific example, but probably others in my past. But I was working a job at a bar in college, and I had been drinking, and then I went to social media to vent out like something that had frustrated me that night about like somebody that worked at basically with me for the same company as me, and like it wasn't just one person, but like I vented it out in the form of social media, and like especially because of the drinking, like in the fact that you can't really take that back, right? Like as soon as you hit the post button, like somebody's gonna see it, right? so I vented it out about this specific incident, and then it ended up like costing me like some relationships, and maybe that would have happened otherwise, but I think the like the instant accessibility of just like typing something out and hitting the fucking send button, right, and then like passing out and like waking up 8 hours later and like to the regrets of that. Social media was like the medium in which allowed me to put that out to such a wide audience. And I think that's my biggest regret. And that is one isolated incident, right? Like I vented out like some shit that I shouldn't have said, regretted saying. It was the result of like some emotional conversations that happened that night. And like, then I vented out about it. But there's other times that I've done the same thing, right? Like whether it be with like an ex-girlfriend or a friend or whoever. And like, you're like, fuck this person. And you post it and send it out on social media. And like, that everybody sees that you say that, and like you come back and you're like, man, I didn't really mean that, right? But like now, like you've expanded that issue by so many, like, you know, it's exponentially worse,
Right?
Because now people are seeing this, and I think not dealing with problems face to face as a result of social media is probably my biggest regret. Like, causing divides with friends, and like, no kidding. Like I've probably lost friends over social media in the past. I can't even think of a specific example right now, but like you say something or do something, or like you put the wrong person in your top 8, you know what I mean? Like there's like the interpersonal conflict of social media, and rather than just, I think this is the summation of my point here. I think I have used social media as a crutch to avoid conflict in my life. And that is the biggest regret. Like I think I have used the keyboard warrior mentality in the past as a way to like vent out frustrations rather than confronting it to the person face to face. And because of that, I have lost friendships or relationships or whatever it might be. And I think that's my biggest regret. And that like, that's part of it, right? Like social media is like, I don't ever want to be a keyboard warrior. Like I aspire to be the person that can deal with things face to face, and that is a challenge for me because like conflict has been a difficult thing for me at different points in my life, and I've progressed beyond like where I used to be for sure. Like I've grown as a person and able to deal with things a little better, but I think anyway, and I'm not perfect 100%. I can tell you that much.
Oh yeah,
but I definitely struggled with it, and like I used social media instead of just dealing with my problems. So there is my regret.
I like it. You need to.
That was a long-winded way to answer that. My wife is in the comments asking if I've had ex-girlfriends. So
yeah, I also I've never had ex-girlfriends. I've never dated anybody before.
No.
My wife.
Yeah.
Dave mentions that managing conflict is tough for him. It's tough for me too. I definitely I like to think I've gotten better at it. I used to be way too confrontational. Like I was the guy at the bar who was like, "You're getting way too close to my friends. We're gonna have a problem really quick, and I'll let you know that." Whereas now it's like I just don't go out, so I don't have to deal with it. But I like to think that I think I portray the same personality on social media that I have in real life. Like if somebody says something dumb, I'm gonna call it out.
Yeah, and I think I've gotten it's a twofold process, right? With social, and I want to keep this conversation surrounding social media, but we're running out of time here. So to be short about this, it's like I think you're forced when you don't do it through social media to be a little bit more of yourself, like in person. And I too have had struggles with conflict, right? Like it's tough probably for everybody, but I think social media made that worse potentially because it was my way of like, I can confront you from behind a keyboard and tell you to fuck yourself, and I don't ever have to like say it to your face and deal with that conversation. Because like, if I won't say that to your face, why would I say it on a keyboard?
Right.
And like, if I truly believe that, then I need to be willing to confront that problem. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know.
Carly wants to meet, ready to get into a fight, Jake, apparently. I'll throw hands, Carly.
I'm not a fighter. Afraid. Like, and truly, this is one thing I value about myself. I don't fight people. I am not a fighter. Like, that is not in my personality.
I don't fight people either, but I'm ready to fight if I need to.
That being said, I am more confrontational than I used to be because I'm more comfortable with it. I'm more comfortable dealing with that confrontation, which is a good thing, a healthy thing, I think. What did Dave say here? One of my... did you put it up? My bad.
Yep.
One of my favorite parts of Twitter is when smart people outsmart...
Smart, good people outsmart and own smart, bad people. And Jake is a good, smart person who owns smart, bad people.
That is such a mouthful. I think I understand what you're saying there, though.
It happens. You know, sometimes there's people who are smart and have a good opinion. There's people who are smart but have a bad opinion. And somebody's got to call them out. And I think Dave's saying I'm one of the ones who calls them out. So... He also says, Dave knows I'm ready to throw hands if I need to.
I would lose most of the fights that I got into. I'm pretty confident.
I probably would too, but I'm leaving with something. I don't know what it is, but something's coming
When
with
they say
me.
you should see the other guy, they're talking about me. Okay, anyway, we're out of time on this topic for sure. We got to move on. I'm going to crack
That's
my
fine.
second beer. Jake, you crack yours, and let's move on.
I'm drinking Puff Tart XL by the Brewing Project, which is an imperial sour ale with mango, pineapple, dragon fruit, and marshmallow. It's 9% alcohol too, which I was not expecting when I grabbed it out of my fridge.
I am going to do the chocolate cookie cream stout. Chocolate cream
that
cookie
sounds
stout.
So good. I love
Which
those
sounds
cookies, too.
delicious, but I just now realized that it's made by O'Fallon, and I've had some of their stuff before, and I don't think I liked it very much. So hopefully it's good. But I love stouts.
All right. My topic is relatively quick, which is good for the time frame that we have here. This happened on Twitter. I saw a tweet. I quote tweeted it, had some conversations about it, and somebody on Twitter asked us to talk about it on the podcast. So Buckeye Nuts on Twitter.
Buckeye nuts.
I am going to respect your request, and we are going to talk about this on the pod. Kyle.
Really quick. This is my bone to pick. Now that I'm not on social media, Jake gets to take advantage of all the fucking audience offered topics and doesn't have to think for himself. Shit.
Haha.
Cop
Right.
out. Okay, go ahead.
Anyways, what is the greatest video game controller of all time?
Ooh, that is a good topic.
I have a very hard and fast opinion that cannot be changed on number one. But I think if we did a top five, I think you could persuade me on the bottom four.
We could probably talk through a couple of these at least. Okay, I am going to say the PlayStation
Oh, you're already wrong.
controller.
Which one?
I could specify, but really they haven't changed much over the years. I would probably say PS4 is the best advancement of the controller.
PS4 is number two for me. Number one all time is the Xbox 360 controller. It is hands down the greatest controller ever made.
I don't agree with you, but
You're
it's
wrong,
okay.
but it's fine.
It's so for me, I grew up an Xbox person, right? And the Xbox original is such a shit controller.
Oh, it's so somebody had seen the tweet and thought I was talking about that controller because I said the original Xbox 360 controller
Okay.
was the
And they
go,
just-
and so they thought I was talking about the original Xbox controller, which was a big giant hunk of garbage. And if
It
you like
was
that
not
controller, you like-
ergonomical. It was heavy. It was huge. So yeah, I'm with you on that. But when I went from a 360 controller to a PS3, maybe I can't remember if I went from. So I briefly touched the PS3, and the PS3 controller also kind of sucked to me. I don't agree with those guys. I don't think I liked the PS3 controller at all.
Yeah, I prefer the 4 to the 3.
And then when I went to the 4, I actually appreciated that a little bit better. But I will caveat that and say the PS3 controller that I had was an aftermarket one that my brother bought like Game Fucking Stop. So
it doesn't matter.
it was pretty garbage.
So the reason I like the 360 one so much is every button was like you could tell you were pressing the right button. Like it felt like you were pressing a button. But also the joysticks were like the perfect level of tight. Like if you moved the joystick, it felt like whatever you did was the proper amount of movement. Whereas like on the PS3 controller specifically, like those joysticks got really wobbly really quick, and like a light flick on it was like spinning in a complete circle, which was a
Yeah.
problem for me. I didn't like it.
For the people in the chat here, Uncle Kyle, you are not correct about GameCube. Okay, I hate to break
The
your.
GameCube controller's ass.
I hate to burst your bubble. The GameCube controller was better than the N64 controller, which is saying something because I love N64 and I love playing on that. But if you think about like the actual ergonomics of that controller, it's fucking stupid. It doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
it's not
So
good.
that one not good. GameCube better. PS4 or Xbox 360 definitely over that. Yeah, I think you'd have a hard time convincing me that the 360 was better than the PS4. That was a really good controller.
The PS4 is a solid number 2. But the 360, like, I had a 360 SCUF controller, which is like a custom controller with extra paddles and buttons and stuff and trigger stops. If I still had that controller, that would be what I would use if I ever had to use a controller. I love
Yeah.
it that much. I'm actually considering buying another one because there's some games that I want to play where it's like I'd rather just use a controller than mouse and keyboard, and I want that controller specifically.
Yeah.
But PS4 is a close second. Uncle Kyle said he prefers the PS5 controller to the 4.
I have no doubt about that. I've never touched one.
Never have either. Dave asks like thumb grips on joysticks. I have used a Control Freak, which is an extended thumbstick, on any controller I've ever used. Basically,
I didn't
since
use it for the
360.
first time until PS4, and I loved them, which is funny because when I first put them on, I hated it.
Oh yeah,
I can't even tell you how much I hated it because it was like so unnatural to me. But then I ended up just absolutely loving the controller grips or risers and specifically with Control Freak, they made it so one joystick would be like slightly higher than the other.
Yeah, you could get different heights,
which was nice as well, depending on how you liked it. So it was customizable grip, which was great.
Yeah.
I've never used any of the Pro controllers, so I have no opinion on those. I would never spend the money on that. That was always absurd to me.
It was worth it. Anyways,
I would never do that.
I made more money using that controller than I did using a different controller playing video games. So, balance. But yeah, so it goes for me. My top 5, I thought it out. Number 1, Xbox 360. Number 2, PS4. Number 3, mouse and keyboard. I'm counting that as a controller. Number 4 is the controller that comes with the Nintendo Switch for the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a nice ergonomic controller.
That being said, just a singular Joy-Con might be the worst thing ever.
Oh, 100%.
And frankly, attached to the Switch is also terrible. It's like dude, I get thumb fucking cramps 10 minutes into playing, and that's not old people shit. It's just because it's not ergonomic. It's garbage.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And then number 5 for me was the hardest one because there's a lot that suck after what I've mentioned so far. I would probably go. I had one in my head, but now I'm thinking of a different one, and I don't know which way to go. I'm just going to stick with my gut. It's the PS2 controller, which is very similar to the PS4 controller. Less similar to the PS3 controller, more similar to the PS4.
Yeah.
So I go PS2 as my final one.
I would probably go PS4, mouse and keyboard, which is a stretch for me. Trust me, it took me a long time to adapt, but now that I'm there, I think it is the most...
I'm surprised it was that high.
I think it is the most user-friendly, not user-friendly. It is the most customizable to the user experience that you can possibly have.
Oh, 100%.
And you can independently use both hands for a lot of different functions. So I think going as a console person growing up, I still have to go console first, and that's PS4. But I think anybody that grew up playing only PC, it would be an easy league above the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. PS4, PC, then I would go PS2 probably. Yeah, dude, the Xbox 360 just doesn't stick in my mind as that great. So I'd probably go PS2.
Oh man, you got to.
Then I'd go Xbox 360, and then I would go. I don't know. Like you said, that one's tough. Can I say the Guitar Hero guitar is my
I was
5.
thinking in my head the Guitar Hero guitar. That's what came up in my head. I was like, I fucking love but which Guitar Hero guitar because it matters, and it's
the OG, not that bullshit one that had the fucking like tap to play.
No. But I want the Les Paul styled one, not the one that you have is the. I'm blanking on the name. It's the Gibson SG. I want the Gibson Les Paul style one.
That means nothing to me. All I know is that I really liked the original one. I don't know guitars, so.
Well, I am also about to spend a stupid amount of money on Guitar Hero stuff because I just want to play Clone Hero, which is the
goddamn fun.
It's the computer version of Guitar Hero, and I think it'd be amazing to play it again because I played it when we went out when I visited Kyle. We played Guitar Hero almost the entire time.
We played a lot of Guitar Hero because I had nothing else to do while I didn't have internet and shit.
Yeah, we drank a lot of beer and played a lot of Guitar Hero. It was a great time, but. Yeah, we just had to talk through the controllers because it was contentious on the internet, and I had to bring it here just to get your opinion because I know you game as much as I do.
That's true. Well, yeah, that's true. Okay. Jake's topic's done. Do you want a serious or a fun one?
We only have 10 minutes. Let's go fun.
Okay, Jake, I want you to talk to me briefly and quickly about your pets' personalities. How would you describe the personalities of your pets?
This is the easiest question you have ever given me. I want to share something real quick. I'm going to share my screen because, as anybody who has seen me share my screen before knows, it used to be a Bug's Life. I don't know why it got changed to a Bug's Life, but it was a Bug's Life. And when I updated my PC, I didn't remember my Windows key, So I could not activate Windows, so I could not change it. But I got it activated, and I'm going to use a live demonstration
Oh my god.
to explain what is going on here. Ignore this Yahoo article about Shailene Woodley and Aaron Rodgers. But these are my dogs, everybody. You get to see my family, my dogs, and I'm going to go in order here. So this is Layla. She is a scaredy cat little bitch. She hates anybody who isn't my wife and I until she gets to know him, and then she loves you. But she's a sweetheart, but she is scared. When the other dogs start playing, she gets mad that she's not involved. She starts barking. She gets things wild and causes some fights sometimes because of it, because she's awkward. She just is awkward. She's shy. She's a scaredy cat little bitch. All right, that's Layla. Next up is Miley, our little gray pitty, little blue pitty. She's a dumbass. She's the dumbest fucking dog that I have ever met in my entire life. She's really smart, but is also really dumb. She eats poop and like wants you to
Make
know
pills
she
for
does
that.
it too. She chews on everything. She like walks around with our slippers in her mouth because she can, and we stop her, but she'll do it anyway. But she's just dumb. She gets separation anxiety, so she gets a little whiny in her crate sometimes. But she's just an idiot. She's our idiot. We call her our idiot. That's very much what she is. Next up, we got Ernest, my boy. This guy just loves. No matter what it is. If it's food, he loves it. If it's attention, he loves it. If it's hanging out, he loves it. If it's you give him a toy, he loves it. That's all. That's all he is. He's just a pure ball of love. And he's got a heart problem, but his heart problem has not stopped his heart from working because this boy loves everything, like I said. Last up is Reenie. This is queen bitch right here. Jess may think she runs the house. Nah, it's Reenie. Reenie runs the house. Reenie is in charge of everything. She is the one who instigates play with the other dogs. She is the one who, if you need just a dog by your side, you can trust that Reenie is always right there. She knows when she's needed. She knows when she's not needed. She leaves you alone, but she also gets a little jealous every once in a while. She can, if you're petting another dog and she's like, "Hey, now my turn." She'll let you know. You'll know. She likes to throw hands. We always say she's very handsy. So when she meets new dogs, we always joke that she'll punch them in the face because she like swats at them to get them to play. She's like, "Why aren't you playing with me? Come on." But yeah, she's the queen. She runs our house. She's also the easiest dog in the entire world. Like if you picture a dream dog, it's Reenie. Boy is a close second, but Reenie's queen bitch. And then the fifth animal in the house is Jake. He's kind of he's a handful, let me tell you. But those are my dogs.
All right. This is Louis. His name is Louis. I've never called him Louis ever. That might be the first time I've ever referred to him that way because his real name to me is Louis,
Yep.
but it's Louis is his real name. But he goes by 8 million fucking other names. Louis has a very, very unique personality. He is what we refer to as quirky. He is hilarious because he's such a people person. Like he wants to be around people, he wants to love on people, and he wants to be a part of everything and all the time. But he also has so much personality where he like the things that he's so he likes really weird shit. So like he really likes pipe cleaners, for example, of all things. And he likes to be, if you pick him up under the armpits, he goes like he throws his fucking arms up and he just wants to roll around and be. He is a character. Thank you, Dave. That's a good way to describe him. He's a character. Tons of fucking personality in this guy, and he also just absolutely loves to be around people, be loved. And especially when he likes to be places where he's not supposed to be. I'd call him inquisitive. He's the curiosity kills the cat kind of cat. And so if somebody like Jake comes to visit my house and he hasn't been around before, he will walk right up on his fucking chest while he's sleeping and just be like, "Wake up, I'm right here, motherfucker." So, which he did to Dane too when he was here. So he is quirky, and that is the best description of him. He is awesome, Dave. Louis is the cat that makes people like cats.
Yeah.
So I grew up hating cats, and this is the cat that makes you really like them because he has so much personality, and he comes when he's called. He wants to, he's a really good cat.
If you listen deeply to most of this podcast, you can hear him purring.
He does. He sits in my lap this whole time. He's a boy's boy. Like, he fucking wants to be such a homie. So if I come out to my little space out here and I'm like on the podcast, he has to be with me. So he'll sit here and just purr the whole time in my lap. He's a good dude. Okay, Gracie is her real name. I've never called her Gracie.
I was gonna say that's news to me. I thought it was Grace.
She is Grace to me as well. Missy, otherwise, she is a cat. Her personality, though, is, like you said, who runs the house? It's probably Grace. Grace is the sassy one in the house. She's the one that's going to fucking throw hands. And she's also the person that'll let you know if she doesn't like what you're doing. She's going to fucking hiss at you like a motherfucker if you do something. But she's kind enough to never actually, like, throw hands at people, just at Lewis. Lewis, on the other hand, if he doesn't like something, he's going to fuck you up. If you start touching this dude's belly, he's like, scratch, and they both have claws. So, but she is the vocal one. He is the action. She's all bark, no bite. Yeah, she's the sassafras. She'll scream and yell when she doesn't like something, and then she will make it known quickly that you are irritating her. She also is very independent. She just wants to be on her own all the time. But that's pretty much it. That's my cat's personalities. I'm probably missing some stuff, trying to get through this quickly, and Carly probably has like much more descriptive ways of describing them. But
whenever we have the wives on again, we'll have to get their descriptions of the animals. See,
dude, we could probably spend a whole hour with Carly describing like in detail the personalities of Lewis, because he is full of personality.
He likes to smell things.
He loves to smell things.
But will tell you, you will know if he doesn't like it.
He will gag if he doesn't like it.
Almost instantly. It's very quick.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I've probably had him smell everything that I've eaten in that house.
It's the rule. He has to smell it.
You just got to do it. Because he would always, whenever I would come, he always would hang out by me for whatever reason. Probably because he knows I'm allergic to cats. But I don't react to...
He likes to be places where he's not supposed to, so...
I don't react to your cats allergically. Like, I don't know if you guys just take really good care of your cats and really good care of your house, but like a lot of people's houses, like I can't be in their houses for like we went to Jess's mom's house last weekend for a game night, and the previous owners had a cat, and I can, if I'm in the house for like an hour and a half, there we go. There it is. Dave was asking for it in the chat, so we had to make it happen. But I go over there, and the cat used to live in the house, hasn't even lived in there for a long time, and it's not like their house is dirty or anything like that, but I just react to the cat. Like if I'm there for an hour, my throat starts to get scratchy. Like I could tell Jake's not going to have a great night of sleep afterwards. He's going to struggle. But like the entire time I've stayed with you guys, both times I have not reacted to your cat whatsoever. So
it's because they're perfect, man. I'm telling you, I grew up such an anti-cat person, and Carly could tell a million stories about how I almost immediately sacrificed the ability to be in a relationship with her because of the mean things I said about cats. But I adapted, overcame, and now I am a cat person for sure. I still like dogs.
I'm
100%.
still
but
a dog person,
love cats.
but I do like cats, especially your cats.
Good cats. Anyway,
Good cats.
quick little yes, and so okay, really quick because we're almost out of time, but Dave, to chime in on this really quick. My aunt, for whatever reason, she'll never let it go. One of my aunts that lives back in Iowa, every time somebody talks about our cats, she goes, if everybody had cats like they have cats, then everybody would want cats. You know what I mean? Like they would like cats. And my aunt is an avid cat hater. Like she does not like cats at all. But she always says the same thing about Lewis. He's a dog cat. He's got everything that's perfect about a cat, but has the personality with like a dog.
We call Miley our cat dog because she likes to get on the back of the couch like I imagine cats do.
Surprisingly less often than you'd think, but actually Lewis is the one that does that sometimes.
They got their spots though. All right. Rate your last beer.
That's all I got. Okay. I feel like this is strikingly similar to the last O'Fallon I had, but not having them side by side, I don't know. It's a 2.75 for me. It's okay. There's not a lot of that flavor that comes through of what they're describing as the cream cookie. You can taste it a little bit, but mostly it's just a stout. So 275.
Mine is a 375. The flavors definitely come through, but it's a little heavy, like heavy on the stomach. So I couldn't drink more than like probably like 2 or 3 of these and I'd be done. So that's why it gets a little bit of a lower rating. But
We're also on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching live, we are on YouTube, Two Average Husbands. Probably the best way to do it if you want to interact with us and have a good time and participate, to do it on YouTube live with us and chime in the chat. You could also watch live, though, on Twitter and on Twitch. Only comment on Twitch and YouTube, though. If you try to do it on Twitter, it's not going to reach us properly. There's just still some issue that we don't know what the answer to that is yet. You can also stream us on any of your streaming platforms from the podcast perspective. So Spotify, Google Podcasts, stuff like that. You can find us pretty much everywhere. If you can't find us and you want to, let us know and we'll try to figure that out. Or Jake will. I'll make him do it because he's pretty good at that. Other than that, I think that's all I have, except for to say topics and beers. If you have ideas about them or you want to participate or give them to us, absolutely do it. And we will bring those topics like Jake did today, or those beers like we're trying to do for Dave once we can find that beer. We'll absolutely take your guys' input as well. Jake, close us out.
as always, in the description of everything that we post, except for the YouTube videos, I got to go back and update them all. Check out our link tree. If you guys like craft beer, make sure you sign up to Tavour through our link so that we can both get some free beer out of it. I will make sure to share it with Kyle, since I got a lot of beer that's coming on the way, a lot of really cool beers to try on the pod here. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. Make sure you support us on any of the platforms that we are on. It really helps for any future that we have with this podcast, whether it's if we ever get a sponsor or anything like that. We were supposed to have one. It fell through. I'm sorry. Kyle didn't get some free beer out of it. Oh, no. But anyways, thank you guys for all the support that you do give us. We do appreciate every last one of you, every one of you that tunes in every single week. Bring your friends, tell your friends about it, tell your family about it, share it on social media, get in the chat, and have some fun with us. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you all in next week's episode. And as always, don't forget to